Welcome to the 20th episode of Tokenizing Everything, our weekly interview series with thought leaders in the blockchain industry. Today's guest is Nils von Schoenaich-Carolath, founder of PREOS token and serial entrepreneur. Before we begin, I have to mention that all opinions are solely personal and do not reflect the opinion of Amazing Blocks or any other involved party. So Nils, it's a pleasure to have you here today. How are you?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I'm fine, thank you. And you?
Yeah, I'm also good. Enjoying the a bit more sunny weather now in Germany these days, so it's great. So would you like to maybe start by briefly giving an introduction of yourself?
Yeah, sure. Niels. I'm living in Frankfurt, and I started my career after studying economics in Bayreuth in Frankfurt at PwC, and I was a consultant in the area of banking regulation, Basel III, Basel IV. But I was into blockchain and Bitcoin, since 2016, and so this was always my hobby. And after 3 years, I changed to the equity side, to a real estate investor. And I worked there for another 2.5 years. And first of all, I had a focus on risk management, on financing. So I had like financings for real estate in senior and mezzanine tranches worth more than 1 billion euro. And in the second part of my time there, we started the project we will talk about today, so the PREOS token. And this was an amazing time. And now I'm going to start some new projects.
Exciting, yeah. So a very diverse deep dive into all these different spheres of the financial sector, right? So maybe before we dive into the PREOS topic and blockchain in general, could you give us some insights on the one hand, what sparked your interest in joining the real estate space, and maybe then also what sparked your interest in general in terms of blockchain?
Yeah, sure. So when we start with real estate, it's quite easy. As I just said, I come originally from the banking regulation side, and I was always interested in banking and finance, and also in financing structures. And to be honest, I didn't have a special connection to real estate. It was just the underlying for working on complex financings, on IPOs and stuff. So it could have been another sector, but now I'm happy that it was the real estate sector, because the connection of real estate, of tokenization, and of financing structures is quite unique and has a lot of potential. And why blockchain? So I'm interested in blockchain since 2000 and I think it was 16, but I was not invested so hard that I can say that I'm one of the old Bitcoin millionaires, unfortunately. I was very interested in that topic because I saw the potential. And in 2017, it was, I think, I made some like mass open online courses in cryptocurrencies. So for example, the University of Nicosia had a free program there, which is very, very good to understand all the technique behind that when you are not an IT guy. So I came deeper and deeper into that topic. And then one day our boss said, we want to start a blockchain project. Anybody with knowledge here? And I could raise my hand and said, this is what I'm very interested in for the last 3 years. And this is how we started that.
Okay, exciting. And that's seeing how you kind of also merge these two different perspectives, right? And then kind of started this pioneer project. And also in general, into before we really get into this topic, what are to you is the most auspicious use case of tokenization in general, and what are the most obvious or lowest hanging fruits in terms of the benefits that you would see there?
So I think tokenization is democratizing the investment landscape. And so let's have a look at the retail. The retail has so far been left out of most of the exciting investment projects. So the normal user like we are, or let's say Max Mustermann, he could buy, or what can he do today? He can buy stocks, funds, gold, or maybe Bitcoin, or buy like an apartment or a house with a big chunk of risk. But now he has completely different opportunities to invest directly and without any intermediaries in tranches that he can afford and that were previously close to him. And in the end, illiquid assets are made liquid, and huge assets get fragmented and dividable. And that's the key why tokenization will be successful, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you really summed it up perfectly in terms of why tokenization is, also needed, right, in terms of democratizing access to these different financial vehicles. So you're the founder of the world's first digital twin on the blockchain. To people that are not familiar with this, what does this mean actually?
That's a good question. Should I first explain how we started that project, or why we made a digital twin? I think it's easier to understand when I first explain how this project started.
Yeah.
So my former company that I was working for, Publicly, had always been at the cutting edge of technology and the capital market. So, for example, it launched the first alternative investment fund, had the first non-performing loans that where retail could invest in. And they recognized, they were really the first, like 9 years ago, they recognized the value of data years before other companies. And they created a large database for all 9,500 office real estate buildings in Germany. So therefore, it was, in the end, only a logical consequence to be the first to act like in the blockchain sector. And the only question was, do we want to tokenize a real estate asset, or do we want to tokenize the share? And there were already 1 or 2 projects that tokenized an asset. So I think it was not a real project, because in the end, I think someone who owned that building in the first place then bought the tokens. So it was like a circle. But we thought that when we can build up a digital twin of a share, we will definitely have a greater impact. That will definitely have a greater impact for the whole community. And that was very important for us. And that's why we said, let's tokenize the share. Yeah, and what would we do? What did we do there in particular? So this is a little bit more tricky. So first of all, why do we always say we have a digital twin of the share and not the real share? That's quite easy due to German law, because somewhere in a cellar, in a bank, or at Clearstream, there's a piece of paper which you still need under German law. So I hope that, and I'm pretty sure that this will change in the next 5 years, but until now, you need this piece of paper. So we had to build up a digital twin. How did we do that? And this was the completely new thing. Or first, let's have a look what the token is doing. The token gives you all rights that you have when you would have the real share. So you have you can get a dividend. You have also voting rights via a trustee. So this is like almost identical to a share. And we built that up with a token. And this token conveys a tokenized trustee position to the token holder, which means the transfer of the trustee position and the claiming of the rights through this trustee position basically depends on the possession of the token. So if you own the token, and this means that the token has, so to speak, security-like functions in the sense of a bearer instrument. And this was the completely new thing that no one did before, to tokenize this trustee right. This was the key to success. Yeah, and that's what we did.
Very exciting, and as the founder, right, probably lost a lot of responsibilities throughout this process for you. So can you describe maybe your journey through it, the ups and downs, and what were your responsibilities on that?
Okay, I hope that we have the whole evening to talk about that, because there were a lot of ups and downs. No, so first of all, the responsibilities, that was quite easy. I was the main project manager on behalf of the shareholder, so of Publity. And yeah, I coordinated and strategically managed all work streams and the whole project. And yeah, I think the most exciting parts, I think, is where were the problems, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, first thing is like I just said, we have entered completely new legal territory. So there was no blueprint for us to follow, and the tokenization of trustee rights in this form was like, yeah, completely new and a special thing about this project. And in addition, so maybe for the setup that, you know, we were like over 50 people working on that project and over 20 different companies from all businesses and areas. And this is quite tough setup for a project. And if you want, especially if you want to be successful within 9 months, plus having a BaFin prospectus, so that's not that easy. So there's a constant tension between the IT developers, the banking partners that are responsible for licensing and for KYC, and the lawyers who are writing the prospectus. And all of them are constantly dependent on deliveries from others. And it's incredibly difficult to coordinate and keep this schedules then, and to stay in time. And this only works if everyone is 100% committed to the project. And yeah, here I have to definitely pay a big compliment to our partners, to Mikobo, Banker Scheich, SMP, and RKH, because they worked like day and night. And I think, and this is the key, they identified with the project 100% like I did. So for me, it was quite easy because it was my baby and my company who was doing that. But it's very important to have the service providers also on board, and they need to be 100% committed on that project. And in the end, I think that was the key to success, that we got such a huge project done in just 9 months. And there were a lot of other stakeholders involved, like a depository bank, crypto custodian, paying agents, legitimation services like ID Now, PEP checkers who checked that your token or your addresses were not in contact with like Kim Jong-un, for example. So it's a really, really huge project, but I think for everyone, there was the idea that we are the first ones in the world who will bring the share to the blockchain. And this motivated the people so much that, I think that was the reason why this all worked out in the end.
Yeah, very exciting. And seeing all these different players come together, it's probably also an exciting time, but also a very challenging time for you, right? I assume. And hence, props to you for, managing this project so well and bringing it to market in this short time frame. And so since this was a pioneer project, can you kind of give some overview of how was the reception, from on the one hand, the investors, of course, was it understandable to them what they're actually investing when we're talking about tokens, and also from a media side, how was the reception in that regard?
So I think we had a huge advantage, especially regarding the BaFin and also investors, because we chose an underlying that was completely understandable, because the actual share is a plain vanilla product for everyone. So you don't have to explain so much the underlying. And this was very important, because it's very, very challenging on the legal side to get done everything for this project, and to get all permissions to do that. And that retail can invest in that. And I think it was very good that we did it with a plain vanilla underlying that everyone understood, first of all. And yeah, feedback. So the feedback from the scene and the media was yeah, very strong. It was tremendous. So we definitely have seen there that we created something completely new that opened a lot of doors for other projects, and yeah, that had not existed before. And then even with the BaFin prospectus, which was very, very important for us, and with a huge KYC and anti-money laundering concept with like more than 70 pages. So I think this was more than state of the art, what we did there, and this will help a lot of other projects. And this is what the scene really appreciated. And maybe a shout out for the whole blockchain and tokenization scene. You see the spirit, and that everyone has the same vision, because we know that you will need this technique, and this technique will definitely be successful in the next 5 to 10 years. And this is why everyone is happy for the other when he achieves like something like we did, because this will help a lot of other projects. From the investor side, it was also quite easy to explain what we are doing, and we could also show the advantages of what we were doing, is on the one hand for the retail, but also on the other hand for the institutionals. So unfortunately, there were like short attacks on the stock a few weeks before go live. So that had a big impact on a rather illiquid stock, which is quite normal. And this is why, there was not yet been the demand from the retail side that we were hoping for, because I think it's understandable when something goes down, people are afraid. And normally this is the time where not the retail is buying. Retail buys Tesla now, or Apple, or other technology, or Nasdaq shares. So when you're a little bit lower, then it's time for institutionals to invest. And this is what the company have seen. This is also why, because I think this is also why the primary market trading is paused right now, because there are like negotiations with a huge investor who wants to buy a huge set of shares and tokens. But I'm not involved into that anymore, so I can't give an update that is newer than 8 weeks. So far the feedback. So the feedback was very, very good overall.
Yeah, I assume, right? Since it's such a huge project, since you were the first one to actually do something like this, which I think basically any asset in the future, and since it's also the name of the podcast, right? Tokenizing everything can be tokenized, and seeing, especially going through the hurdles of a BaFin prospect, like so that's not something that you just get overnight, right? So it's really a long tenure to receive this. And
you can ask the lawyers, this takes weeks and months. It's crazy, but it's open source. It's over I think over 300 pages strong, so everyone can read it, everyone can use it, and that's very good for the whole branch, for the whole scene.
Yeah, you really said the first step, right? For an entire industry. And I think it's also great that you mentioned how everybody in blockchain is rather trying to work together than against each other, like it is sometimes the case in CeFi, so to say. It's really like a joint effort. Everybody is happy for each other, and I think that's a core aspect where how this industry will really evolve in the future. So at this stage, I would really like to ask, we have 2 questions as always from the Being Crypto community for you that they have prepared it. The first question would be, and that's probably an easy one for you: how do shareholders mainly benefit from tokenized shares?
Yeah, that's not that easy, because a lot of people said, I can just buy the share. Why should I buy the token to swap that into the share? That doesn't make sense for me. So that's a good question. I would say, especially for very small investment amounts, but also for extremely large investment amounts, we see much lower transaction costs for the users, definitely. And in addition, the transaction speed is significantly higher. So I have seen share transfers from one depot to the other that took like 2 weeks. Here it can be done within minutes. And in addition to that, as a, how should I say that? As a convinced blockchain advocate, I would say, the following sentence applies to me. And this is, it's only your asset if you have the private key. This is very, very important for, I think this is one of the most important sentences in the whole blockchain scene. And this means that governments can still freeze your bank accounts and securities accounts. And when I remember right, a couple of days ago, I read a quote from an EZB manager, or from the it was not the president, it was the manager. And he said, with the digital euro, we have full control. That's awesome. We have full control with the digital euro. We know where every $100 bill is. So I would say with the token, you retain full control, and this is what it's all about. Yeah. And this is not only interesting for like journalists who write critical articles in countries like I don't want to bring examples, but you know what I'm talking about. So this can also be relevant for all of us. So I think it's very important to retain full control, and I don't want to have freeze bank accounts or securities accounts, and this protects me from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really being in control of your own assets, your money, probably even your identity in the future is something that
absolutely
blockchain can really bring to the table.
Your data, your health data, this will all be relevant topics.
Yeah, definitely. And so it's exciting to see how people are slowly grasping the potential, and then even from all these different industries coming together and working on a project like that you were managing, right? And everybody working on the same goal to foster this whole industry and move it forward, and making it mainstream, since everybody's looking for this point, how will blockchain become mainstream? And I think this is definitely one of the core principles of that. And yeah, so the second question from the Being Crypto community is more focused on real estate. How do you think tokenization will reshape the real estate industry?
That's a good question. I would say let's have an example. So let's take a 100 million skyscraper in Frankfurt. So up to now, the normal investor, like we are, the retail investor, has not been able to invest in this asset at all. So neither in equity, and certainly not in a fixed interest mezzanine financing product or something like that. So at most, he could invest like 5 or 6 digit amount in a mostly closed fund. Then he's pleased to pay like 5% upfront fee for no apparent reason. Then he pays like 2.5% management fees annually. And he has no idea whether he will get his money back in 5, 10, or 15 years. So tokenization now allows every one of us to invest in a highly liquid product without all the intermediaries, without all the fees, and he can see he can sell the tokens at any time. And anyone truly, so anyone who, I think we all did that. Have you ever compared an ETF to an active managed fund regarding fees? So when you do that, you see what the compound interest effect has on the fees alone over like 10 to 15 years. So your return is halved or like cut in thirds. And so with tokenizing real estate and making it possible for people to directly invest in that, a lot of more money ends up in the consumer wallet through tokenization, and the intermediaries and all the leechers can get much smaller pieces of the cake. And that's for me a huge advantage, and this will also democratize the whole real estate market, because right now when we talk about real huge assets, there are only a few dozen companies who can afford that. and it's very interesting. The whole market is quite intransparent, and this will completely change. So I think this industry will really benefit from tokenization. And I have a lot of other ideas in the pipeline, what you can do regarding ESG, so make buildings greener. How do you finance that? You can finance that through token, for example, that people invest in that, and it's guaranteed that 100% of the money is invested in these green ESG capex. So there's a lot of potential in the whole market, and the real estate sector will definitely benefit from tokenization. And it makes sense because the real estate is very illiquid, and you make it liquid and tradable, and only a few players can afford that. And when you make it dividable, everyone can invest in that, and this means more money, more demand, and this always helps.
Yeah, definitely. I think, real estate is, just also from what I see at Amazing Blocks, or more or less the most demanded use case at this stage. And I think if you look generally at the entire, industry in terms of tokenization, it's also the most popular currently. With, for instance, I think, this Aspen resort that was tokenized, and all these other interesting projects there, and these single properties in the US that are tokenized, I think on T0 and so on. So it's a very exciting market. So now we've talked about share tokenization, real estate tokenization. Are there any other, interesting tokenization use cases that you are maybe focusing on, or that you just generally think that could be, another low-hanging fruit for this industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I always look from the retail perspective and how we can democratize the market. And there are a lot of other investment opportunities where people can, like you and me, can't invest. For example, if you take a Van Gogh painting that costs like 60 million or 80 million euros or 100 million euros, you can tokenize that, and then we are able to, like, for our personal portfolio strategy, we can, like, say, I want to spend 2% for art investments, which is not possible right now. You can do that with old timers, with wine. So I don't know if that makes sense in the end, because I would like to drink the wine. I don't want to only invest in that. In the end, I want to drink it, and then it's not good for the bank account, but for the soul. But there are a lot of other opportunities where you can use tokenization. So just look at shares. Do you know how complex it is to when you buy, for example, an American share, like a Facebook share or a Tesla share? There's so much happening in the back offices with ADRs, with bringing the shares from to Germany, to Europe, then to Germany. This is so complex, and the transaction costs are so high. This is something what the normal customer doesn't see. It will lower transaction costs in any area, in my opinion, and it will speed up a lot of other processes, and therefore it makes sense to tokenize almost everything.
Yeah, that is, I fully agree with.
Yeah, that's your slogan, right?
Yeah, so since tokenizing everything is I think also, it's not just a statement, it's also just kind of like an entire industry, realizing this potential, not just from the blockchain space, but also from the financial sector, where also I see a lot more interest now, I think, coming right from family offices, generally asset managers, that really see that tokenization is not volatile cryptocurrencies, although I'm a fan of crypto, right, in general, but tokenization is really something that can also bridge the decentralized community, in generally the blockchain space, with the traditional financial sector. So another use case, or a potential use case for tokenization, are bonds, right? And since you're a financial market expert, it's interesting for me to see, do you think that tokenizing bonds is also something that has benefits? Is it even needed, or do you think it maybe not so much like with the other cases?
So I don't think it's a question of whether tokenizing bonds makes sense, but when it will be normal for bonds to be tokenized as well. Again, all the benefits like lower transaction costs, higher transaction speed, more individual custody, etc., apply here as well. So that it's not a question.
It will just happen, right? Yeah. So
it will happen because it's cheaper. It's easier, cheaper, faster, and it makes sense. And what we need is the regulatory framework for that. And right now in Germany, we get this regulatory framework, and that's very, very important. And this is, I think, this is one of the two main keys for success for the whole tokenization sector. We need a stable and reliable regulatory framework where especially institutionals can rely on, because when we have that, they will be willing to invest millions and millions and millions into these products. And the second important thing is that we need secondary markets. And we see some secondary markets coming up now in Switzerland, in Germany, in UK. And I'm quite confident to say that in Q3 or Q4 this year, we will see the first real exchanges where you can trade the PREOS token against the real estate token, against the Bitcoin, against fiat, that you can trade one against each other. And I think, these two factors are very important for the scene for success. And this I think this is the difference between 2017-18 and today, because we see a regulatory framework. We already have one in Liechtenstein. We already have one in Switzerland, and we see secondary markets coming up with liquidity pools, with market makers, and then this will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely, right? When you can just tokenize your share of a company with fractionalized ownership in an art piece, and then swap it with real estate, right? It's going to be a whole different feeling of investing, right? Having like a universal marketplace basically for all these different assets coming together. So in terms of the secondary market, do you think here it will be mainly driven from the institutional side, from banks, and potentially, if you could call it the institutional side, centralized exchanges, or do you also see there is some hope for instance, decentralized exchanges which will be utilized to trade security tokens?
So first of all, I know that the banks recognize that they have to work on this topic, because otherwise you won't need banks anymore. Mm-hmm. So, and what I often see is we always dream of kicking out intermediaries and do everything decentralized, but to come to that point, we definitely need the old world and the old business, because they have the regulatory licenses, they have the know-how, which is also very important. And I think it shouldn't be against each other. It should be let's do it together, and let's combine our knowledge with your ideas. And so they will, the classic banks will play a huge role. And the question is, are they willing to implement like tokenization, custody and stuff? And they are willing. And so I got a very, very nice picture from, or very nice vision from a friend or from Switzerland who's working for a crypto bank there. And he said the best thing would be that people just don't have to think about if something is tokenized or not tokenized, because we wanna have one account where you log in, where you see your account status, where you see your shares, where you see your Bitcoin, where you see your real estate token or whatever token you have. And it's the same. It's just the same. For you, it's you don't care in the end if something is tokenized or on which base it's built. You don't care about that. You just want to invest in as many different things as you can. And then the industry will decide in the end if they use tokenization or other classic techniques. And I tell you, they will use tokenization, and because it's cheaper, it's faster, and you have a lower transaction costs. So this is why banks will be very interested in using this technique.
Yeah, definitely. And probably my listeners have heard this from me before, but I always compare blockchain technology generally and the application of it with, for instance, the internet, where if you ask people on the street, they will not be able to explain to you what the internet is, most of them at least, unless you ask a techie, and it will be the same, right? To have that intuitive, basically interface where you do not need to know what is actually going on, behind the curtain, but you just want to leverage the benefits of it. And so you made a great point there. And at this stage, I would like to ask a question that I always have for my listeners and for my guests. And I know you cannot give a definite answer to it, but it's always interesting to see how these different people from different perspectives answer it. So where do you see personally blockchain and tokenization in 10 years from now?
In 10 years?
Yeah.
That's a good one. I think I don't think that we will even talk about tokenization anymore, because it has just become normal, because the normal users are not interested in what's happening behind the curtain, what you just said. So you don't know how the share comes from America to Germany. You just don't care. It's just in your bank account. So the customer will definitely enjoy the greater choice of investment options, and has a one-stop shop solution at their crypto bank to keep track of their checking accounts, credit cards, stock accounts, and stuff. And I think we will see a large economy of auditors reviewing smart contracts, of rating agencies, of analysts, and valuation portals that no longer just recommend buying or selling Daimler shares, but any form of tokenized asset, or any kind of tokenized right, or any kind of tokenized future cash flow. And I think this is where we will be. So we won't talk about tokenization. It's just there. So I think it's a really great vision, and a world that is waiting for us. This is not an utopia. It will come, because we already have the technique, and we have the proof with the share and with other projects. And like one of my biggest dreams, for example, a lot of young people would not have to take out a large loan for their education anymore, which leaves them like in debt for 20 years, because companies or investors can invest in you as a talent, and thus receive stakes in your future cash flow from the start of your career. For example, for the next 10 years, you give him like 5% of your salary. So you have a value as young person. You have a future cash flow that can be higher or lower. You don't know. This is the risk, but you will definitely have a future cash flow. And with tokenization, you can sell rights on this future cash flow to investors. And this is it will make it so much easier for so many people, and for so many ideas and cases which you can't play without tokenization right now. And this is where we will be in 10 years. So I hope in 10 years, if I can't afford it completely, and I think I can't afford it completely, then I would like to have like a share of a Van Gogh, a share in a racehorse, and I would like to have a share in a Hamburg soccer player. So, and I will see that in my bank account together with my other shares, with my credit card, and this vision is amazing, absolutely amazing, because this democratizes everything, and wealth will be splitted off on way more people and on the whole society, and not only on some elites who are now able to invest in these kinds of assets where no one else can invest in.
Yeah, and I think that is a very, very good closing point, because personally also aligns with what really got me into the blockchain space, democratizing, access to innovation, access to the economy in general for also regions that are maybe underdeveloped and such. So really, it's a great point that you mentioned there, also coming from that, traditional finance sector and now realizing the potential here. So it's great, to see how this whole industry is moving along and can get democratized. So thanks, Niels, for your great insights. It was a pleasure, to have you on here, and I think you're one of the true pioneers in the tokenization industry. So chapeau to you, and it was a pleasure having you on the show. And I wish you a great day today, and yeah, enjoy the great weather in Frankfurt.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, and all the best. And I think in 5 years, we will talk again and see where we are.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. I'll definitely keep the show running till then. And to our listeners, as always, it was a pleasure to have you on the show, whether live or offline. I'll see you guys next week. And if you have any questions for me, feel free to reach out. And of course, if you have any questions in regard to the PREOS or to Neil's current projects, and I'm sure he can also answer to you. So it was a pleasure to have you guys, and see you next week.